Hi guys, thanks for joining me today on Zeely Creative. Let me give you a little bit if you don't know. So Zeely Creative is my brand studio. So we do full branding for we do websites and of course the full branding, not just logos, but we do full branding, which entails like a whole lot of stuff, strategy, brand strategy to get your business going, this and the other. I'm Christyl Benford. I think most of you know me. But for those that might be watching the replay, you do not know me probably. So I'm Christyl Benford, founder of Zeely Creative. I'm a singer and songwriter, and I've done that for before I even start doing design. And now I'm doing these live streams every Tuesday at noon Eastern Standard Time. So if you want to join me, grab your lunch, coffee, tea, your soda, whatever you drink, honey. Grab it. We're going to get into some good stuff. This month, I wanted to focus on branding because a lot of people have been asking me about branding since that's like one of the major things that I do for my company. And so we went look at Zeely Creative on Facebook. That's Zeely Creative, Zeely Creative. I'll say it again, Zeely Creative. And I feel like I need to lift this up some. Oh, I guess we're good. Zeely Creative, and you can go to Zeely Creative on Facebook. And I couldn't get the Instagram to work last week for Zeely Creative. But so this will be the first live stream on the Instagram side. But you can watch the first video that I did last week on branding, and it gave a few, some of the rundowns of what's involved in branding as far as how we're supposed to be. So if you're joining me, most of you might have a side hustle. Hey lady, looking in Instagram world. Hey. Look at my way back. So yeah, so check that out. That's kind of the introductory, and I touched on a few things, but today we're going to talk about branding etiquette. Okay, so when you watch the last one, and let me see, is there any other housekeeping I need to know? Oh yes, feel free to say something, send a heart, send a like, whatever you want to do during this time. I'll be taking some Q&A at the end when I'm done if you have any questions about what I covered or about branding or whatever. So I will do that at the end. But okay, so today we're talking about branding etiquette. Okay, so when you watch the last video, I touched on how branding first starts with us. So where does branding start? Branding first starts in the mind. This mind right here. And it also starts in, hey Keith, and it also starts in our hearts, like what's really going on in our hearts. That's what we're going to put out. We are individuals. We are living brands, like the Bible. For those of you that read the Bible says that we're living epistles, which means that we are living letters. People are going to read us and not read like the shady read, but it's going to, people are going to read us, read our actions, read how we respond to different things and what we're putting out. They're going to read us first before they buy anything that you're selling, whether it's a product or a service. They are going to interact with you first, especially when we're out and about. You might be networking. Sometimes it's not just a networking event. People remember their connection with you. People remember how you treated them, how you spoke to them, the tone you used, your body language, if you were insecure, if you were quiet, if you were talking over everybody else. People always remember these little things, and a part of who we are, or actually who we are, is a brand. I mentioned in the last video, I said even my 7-year-old daughter is a brand. I mean, she's a brand all on her own. There are certain little things that could either trigger her. There's certain little things that make her laugh. There's certain ways that she handles different situations, whether it's a good situation or a bad situation, but that's her brand. You know what you're going to get from her. So when people deal with you, they know what they're going to get from you. You know what I mean? They know that they know how you normally react, which is a part of your brand, which is coming from your mind and your heart. They know how you normally are going to act, so they are going to react to, they're going to have an experience from you. They're going to have an experience from what you do and what you say. And so we have to understand that before we are selling anything, whether we are an artist, whether we are a musician, whether we are selling tires on the side of the road, no matter what we're doing in business, who we are is going to come out in that business. The way we run the business, the way we handle the finances, personally and in business, all that is a part of your brand. So today I want to kind of dive more into something a little more niche, which is brand etiquette. Now I'm going to tell you a story. So I had a client that, hey Kim, I had a client that this person really had a hard time not ghosting me, and I provide a service. So what I provide is, like I say, is branding and websites. That's what I provide. And sometimes I do marketing, like social media marketing for bigger like churches and stuff. So this person had a hard time not returning calls. I had to have a discussion with this person to let them know, these are my guidelines, and I have these things set up in contracts. And by the way, people, if you are a business person, word of mouth is not enough. We'll talk about that on a later date. But today we're going to talk about, I'm just going to put that out there. Your word of mouth is not enough. Always have a contract if you have that type of business. But in my contract, I state there are certain stipulations in order to get the projects moving efficiently, in order to get them moving quickly. These are the things that I allow, and these are the things that I don't allow. And if certain things breach contract or go against the contract after what I told you before we even got started on the project, then that there are certain, like anything, there are certain consequences. There's fees, there's different things, maybe even losing me as your brand designer or whatever. But there's different things set in place to let people know up front, this is how we effectively can move forward. And if there is anything outside of this scope, it either needs to be discussed and agreed beforehand between me and the client, or either there's going to be consequences, like I said, like fees or whatever. So in saying that, this person had a hard time returning calls, a really hard time returning calls. And they would just disappear for a huge time frame. And if any of you know anything about a service, like a service or even a product, you cannot finish, like me on the brand and website side, you cannot finish something unless you get certain approval from the client about particular things. And then there are some things that the client has to provide you with in order to finish your job. So in saying all this, we had to have a come to Jesus moment, about I had to reiterate some of the things that I had to handle. Now, in saying this, since we're talking about business etiquette, there's two sides to this. There's me as the business owner, as the business person, the seller, the one that is providing the service. And then there is another fold where is the person on the other side, which is the client, who is purchasing, who is the buyer. They're purchasing, they're buying from you. Okay, so here's two etiquettes. Remember, I just said in the beginning that the number one thing we need to understand as people is that we are the brand. We're the brand before we get our register with the Secretary of State, before we get a tax ID, before we do all this stuff, get a name, logo, and all this pretty stuff. We are the brand first. So whatever is inside of us is going to come out, even in business. So I could have been very nasty. I could have just cut her project off, never reached out to her, cut her back. Cut her off completely, kept her money, because I know some people that do that. They will keep the person's money and not provide anything for that person. But I could have been nasty. I could have been really ugly with the situation. I could have even been a lot harsher, even because I had certain things set up in my contract and it was going against the laws of the contract. I could have handled it a whole lot worse than what I did. But instead, I had a conversation with the client once I talked to the client, and I had to reiterate, these are the guidelines. These are the things. And of course, it's hard sometimes doing things in a nice way, but I wasn't nice, nasty. I was nice. I was nice, but I had to put aside my emotions, and I had to put aside, well, I'm not going to do that, you know, all the attitude and different things like that. I had to put those things aside and think about, okay, what is your not title, but what is your position? And for those of you that were in last week that heard the last one, we talked about positioning. What is your position? You know, how are you going to handle this? Because even as living epistles, people will remember, and my grandmother used to always say this, and she was right, I learned that today. People will remember more so the bad that you've done over all the many goods that you've done. So you have to be very careful, and not very careful, you know, just because you're scared of what people are going to say. Not that we want to keep some type of integrity. We want to keep some type of integrity with us, you know, or in us or about us that exudes over into from personal all the way over into business. So I had to have this conversation with the client. I had to keep my composure. The client eventually got a little bit not so great, a little bit nasty, you know, because I think they were offended because I had to bring this to the table. But I had to do what I did. But I kept my integrity as a person, and I kept my integrity as a business owner. Okay, so that's a part of etiquette. You have to keep your integrity. Just because a person acts one way, and this is personally or in business, remember, we're the personal brand before we are the business brand. Okay, so as we hey Stephanie, as we become more what am I trying to say? Oh, as we move, as we shift, because we're one being, whether you're on the business side or on the personal side, you are, that one thing is a brand, that you is a brand. So we have to learn how to keep the integrity of who we are. We have to be very careful and very wise to not allow certain circumstances or situations to ooze into you know, to pull us out of our character. So even though in the call, it got a little bit more attention from the client, the part of me that's the fighter on the inside of me wanted to rile up. I'm not gonna lie, let's just be honest. I wanted to rile up, but I didn't. I kept it professional. I kept it I kept the conversation at a certain level where it didn't escalate too much. And by the end of the call, there was an understanding. Was the client frustrated? Absolutely. But these are my guidelines. This is my integrity. This is my business. These are the things that I go by. These are the rules that I go by. And especially because I put it up front to begin with in the contract. Now let's look at a client. Let's look at the client standpoint. And then we finally eventually got it together. The project went a lot more smoother moving on from there. So eventually something good came out of it. But then from the client side, and we have to think about it. Remember, we are the brand. So whether you are on the seller side or the buyer side, you are still exuding something that somebody's going to remember. So what is the etiquette as on the buyer side? The etiquette is, and this goes either way, people. This goes whether you on the seller or the buyer side. Do not ghost people. and I'm just learning. I'm just getting on board with this word. But do not get to a place where you are not answering calls. That will hurt you, and it will hurt your business, and it will hurt your opportunities. If you cannot reach out at that particular time, especially in business, at least shoot a text and say, let me call you back. And I understand sometimes things happen where you can't get to the person right away, but do not allow this put a ding on your brand, on you as the brand. Do not allow this to become consistent and something that you do all the time. It doesn't look good, people. Like I said, on the buyer or on the buyer side or on the seller side, it doesn't look good. If you want to be effective in business, if you want to be an effective brand personally and in business, then you have to follow some etiquettes. One of the etiquette, which is this first etiquette, is making sure that you are responding, via email, however it is, via email, via phone, via text. Make sure that you are responding in a timely manner. If you cannot get back to the person or call them back right now or right when you hear the voicemail, do a courtesy by sending them a text and saying, hey, got a lot going on. I did get your message. I will get back to you as soon as I can. Give me X amount of hours, or give me until tomorrow and I'll respond to you. It's that simple. All it is a few words that you have to do. That's business etiquette numero uno for today. Don't ghost people. Okay. Don't ghost people. Answer your calls, answer your emails, answer your texts, people. Okay. Especially if you're a business person. You want to make sure that you are following through. You want to make sure that you're following through, because it looks terrible. And then a part of that etiquette is people will not trust. They will not trust you. They will not trust you as a person. They will not trust you as a business. And then it makes them leery to even work with you. I'm telling you, people remember bad things more so over all the good stuff. So you want to make sure that you are creating a brand. So how does this deal? So I know you're asking me probably, or you might be asking the question. Well, Christyl, you said that the brand starts in the mind and in the heart. So how does this have to do with our mind? We have to get ourselves into a mindset that we respect people as much as we want them to respect us. That's the mindset. We have to understand that we respect people. That's what we have to get our minds in, because our minds, especially in this day and time where everything is self-involved, we have to train our minds to believe and to know that, okay, I know that I want to be treated a certain way. Let me extend that same courtesy to the people that I deal with, personally and in business. Let me extend that same courtesy to them. Okay, don't be a gimme person. Like, I'm a gimme. You got to respect me. Give me my money. Give me this. Give me that. And then when somebody is like, okay, give me, you be like, girl, I don't know what you want me to do. I mean, we cannot be like that. We have to make sure that we are setting our minds up to treat people as we want to be treated. So if you know that there's a certain way that you like to do business, there's a certain way that you like to do even personally, and that's your thing, then give that same courtesy to other people. Treat other people with the same respect. Treat other people with the same, with the same love and excitement that you want somebody to treat you with. That's a very important thing. And you know what, even though it might be like dealing with this call that I had, it kind of got a little bit escalated because of the client, because this particular client just really didn't want to hear what I had to say when it came to the correction portion. But they didn't have a choice. I mean, they had a choice. They could have hung up, but I didn't want them to hang up. Excuse me. But in the end, we had to come to an understanding. I had to make sure that my tone stayed in a place where if one person is escalating and another person begins to escalate, then guess what? You have created a bomb. Then it just blows up in your face, and then nothing gets resolved, nothing gets done. Both people are offended, and it doesn't work. But I had to extend that courtesy. I would want somebody to be a little bit lenient with me. I don't mind a rebuke. I don't mind a rebuke, but I do want it done in love. I do want it done in courtesy, and that's what I had to extend this person. Okay, despite how they felt about it, that's what I had to extend them. And then by staying in that same tone, staying in that same level, we were able to move forward in the project. We'll move forward first in the conversation with an understanding, and then move forward in the project. So it does work. Okay, so that was number one. Well, kind of like two. It was a little bit of two, and then and then the next etiquette, the next branding etiquette is we're not only renewing our minds to be able to extend the courtesies that we want to other people, but we also have to deal with what's in our heart. Make sure that when you are dealing with certain etiquettes or certain situations, that you are not taking everything personal. I know you might be wondering, what does this have to do with etiquette? It has a lot to do with etiquette, because when we are always treating ourselves as the victim, that we're always the victim, everybody's always coming on us, people trying to egg us, people trying to, not pay us or whatever the case is. When we do that, then guess what? That attitude seeps out in your tone. It seeps out in your body language. It seeps out in those eyes that I could do. That me and my daughter can do that so well. Okay, right. It seeps out in little things that you don't even know where it's seeping out. You don't even understand where it's seeping out. But you have to understand. You have to understand that whatever is in the heart is going to come out. It just is. Whatever is inside of you, in that heart, in that mind, it is going to seep out. So what do? We have to check our feelings at the door so that we are able to clearly discern the situation that we are in right now and not allow our feelings to make everything explosive. We have to come out of the mindset of being victims and think of ourselves as victors, like being victorious, being people that, how do I want to say it? That we are helped more than we are everybody's doing something bad to us, that we are not hindered by what's going on inside of us. So we have to put our feelings aside to be able to discern what's going on right now, what's happening right now, what is the situation, how does the client feel. That's one of the biggest etiquettes ever. A lot of times, if we're operating in our feelings as business people, especially, we are not thinking about what the client says, especially when they're irate. Take time to put your feelings aside and actually hear the words that are coming out of their mouth. Okay, really. No, but actually hear what they are saying. Hear their hearts, hear their heart, hear their frustration. And if the frustration is at you about something you did, then as a business owner, you're going to have to take it. You should just take it and be like, you know what? Okay, I apologize, and show some compassion. Wouldn't we want people to do the same for us? When we mess up, do we want somebody always dinging us and saying, you this and you, and always pointing the finger and blaming us, where we are becoming victims, where we're victimizing ourselves? Or do you want people to show compassion and actually hear your grievances, actually hear what's going on with you? That is something that we have to think about. We have to stop treating ourselves as the victim. Okay. And we have to actually take time out to put our feelings aside and to listen to what the client has to say. Listen to what other people have to say. That's another part of branding etiquette. Stop thinking everything is about you. When we go into business, and like I said, whether you are on the music side or you sell a product or a service, no matter what you do, you have to learn how to put your feelings aside and be able to discern and listen to the situation, listen to the complaints. We always want to get the positive stuff, like all the accolades, all the flattery, and all the all this. We always want to get that. But then we want to tune off, saying, oh, they just being negative. No, as a business person, you have to hear the grievances of your clients. You have to hear the grievances. Now you can tell if somebody's just being negative, then throw that to the ground. Don't worry about people that are actually being negative. But if it's someone that has a clear issue about what you're selling, what you're offering, what you're doing, and it is, take time out to get out of your feelings and say, well, is there any truth to this? Ask yourself, is there any truth to this? Is there any truth to this about me? Is this something that I need to work on? And, and do like the politicians. I'll take that under advisement. I mean, really, we have to take that under advisement. We have to really listen to see if that is a problem. Because one thing that I learned, I love watching Gordon Ramsay. And one thing he said, the one thing that he said that I remember, and I will always remember, is he said, we do not grow from compliments. We grow from the complaints. And of course, he was talking about on the restaurant side. Why do you go? And it makes so much sense. Why do we grow from the complaints? It's just like those of you that are Christians, and we believe that, you know, there are certain tests and trials that we go through in life, but it matured us. It made us wiser. It made us stronger. Okay, well, it's the same thing with business. Those complaints, and it made sense to me when Gordon Ramsay said this, those complaints are what is going to make you think. Because it's easy to take a compliment because it makes you feel good. And you don't have to do much with a compliment but feel good off of the compliment. But when it's a complaint, when it's a grievance, when it's something that someone is saying didn't work for them that you're offering, we have to listen. We really have to listen. We have to take it in. Stop thinking that because people have these issues that everything is because people have these issues or problems with us, that everything is negative. No, we need to listen. You have to be wise enough to be able to listen and say, okay, let me work on that. And guess what? And if what they're saying is wrong after you've done some self-searching in that brand, after you've done that self-searching, and if they're wrong, then they're wrong. And it's okay, let it go. But don't ever put off how someone else feels about something. That's their feelings. That's their feeling. That's their, how do you put it? That's their feeling. That's their experience. That is their experience. But don't ever, business etiquette 103, don't ever blow people off that have a problem. Don't ever blow people off that have a problem. Okay, so for those of you that just joined us, so we talked about don't ghost people, you know, return calls and text messages and and all this good, especially when you're in business. We also talked about how, you know, people will read you. We're talking about how we're the personal brand, and whatever our personal brand is, it will seep over into our business world. So we got to make sure that because the brand starts in the mind and in the heart, guess what? That stuff is going to seep over and it's going to roll over, whether you are in ministry, whether you are, like I said, selling a product, a service, or whatever it is that you're doing, or whether you sing or you preach or whatever the case is. Remember that you are the personal brand first, and it comes out. And this is a good case in point. I'll give a good case in point. There are some people that will speak and you can hear their frustration through their speaking. Like I'm talking about, they're speaking on a platform, or either they might be singing on a platform, and you can hear the frustration, all the yelling and the fussing through the speaking or whatever, and you're like, oh, why do I feel like I just got beat down? I thought this was supposed to be motivational. You know, we have to think about how that affects us when we experienced it, and then make sure that we're not doing the same thing. Let me see, another business etiquette. There was something that someone brought to my attention, and what was that other business etiquette? I cannot remember. Okay, here's another business etiquette, people. Time management. I will say it again. Time management. Let me say it one more time. Time management. Time management is a business etiquette that a lot of us, let me see how I can say it without sounding some kind of way, that a lot of us with color sometimes struggle with. Yes, we do. Time management. Now, what do I mean about time management? With time management, we have to understand that, and I'll tell you on both sides. I will tell you on both sides. Let's start with the sellers. Okay, let's start with the business owners, the people that are providing a product or a service. Let's start with them first. With time management, we have to make sure that when we tell someone a certain amount of time that something is going to be done, that we do everything in our power to reach that deadline, that launch date, whatever it is. We have to make sure that we keep our word with meeting that due date. Okay. This also goes into, which we touched a little bit, time management, even with calling. Don't wait forever to call people back, but that's a part of time management as well. But we already talked about that. But we have to make sure that when we're not, when we give a time stamp or we give a date or a time, even like time of the day or like a date, make sure that you are meeting that time. Okay, make sure that you are meeting that. In business, that is the worst thing that I have experienced in small businesses. And we have to make sure, and again, trust me, I understand. As a small business owner, I understand that you have a lot on your plate, especially if you are a solopreneur. That means that it is you running the entire business until you can find some help. Okay, but we have to make sure that we do not put off more than what we can do. Or we make sure that we don't put more on us than what we can do in a certain amount of time. So here's a word of advice. When you are dealing with time management and you are offering a service or a product and you tell people that it's a certain amount of time, always add a week. Now, I don't know, everybody's business is different, but always add a few days, or if you have something like mine, which can be very extensive. A lot of things can happen when you're building websites and building brands. A lot of things, more so websites, a lot of things can happen that can be delayed sometimes. But always make sure that you're given a few extra days when you first initially tell that client the time frame it takes for you to have something completed and to them. Either add on a few days, or if it's something extensive like web design or something like that, then add on a week, because it's always better to get done early or on time in your timeline than to be past the due date. That's awful, especially for it to be your fault. So time management is of the utmost important, people, when we are running business. That is a part of your brand. People don't think of it, but that is a part of your brand. That's one of those things that people are picking up on, because it shifts their experience. It shifts their perception about who you are as a business person, who you are as a person, and how it feels to work for you. And trust me, when they say that word of mouth is the best advertisement, it can also destroy you. So make sure that you are meeting a time frame, meeting the time frame for whatever you said. Always add a few days, or if you got to add a week, then go on and add that extra time. So in your mind, they don't need to know that you add in a week. You just tell them, it's 4 weeks, but you can probably get it done in 3 weeks. But always give a little bit more, because you never know what might happen. Always give a little bit more. So that's on the seller side. That's on you as a business owner. That's on your side. Now let's talk. Now let me know. Give me a heart or a thumbs up or something to make sure that you all can hear me and that everything is good on the audio. Just give me a thumbs up. Hit that heart, or hit the you don't have to hit the heart. Hit the heart or the like button. But go on and hit that so I can make sure that you guys still hear me and that I'm still live. But okay, so that's on the business side. So now let's talk about on the if you're buying, if you're a buyer. Okay, because I said that's on the business side, but that's on the seller side, you as a business owner. Now on the other side, if you are buying something, then what you want to make sure that you're doing is that you're following up. Like and I'll use me as an example, because like I said, everybody's businesses are different. If I'm doing a website, I'll just use that as an example, because that's usually the one that runs into the most time issues. But if I am doing a website and I say to a client that I need photos, like they have some photos they want me to use, that I need the photos by next Friday, then you as the seller need to make sure that you can do everything in your power to have that done, especially if that timeline has been given to you in advance. You want to make sure that you are meeting those dates, because whoever is providing you with the service needs that in a certain amount of time to be able to give you your project, or to give you your product. I hope that makes sense. Give me a hand, give me something if you guys can hear. But make sure that you are following the guidelines, or you're giving the people what they ask for, because it speeds up the process for you. And as business owners, you have to understand that time is everything for us. If you are a hairstylist, or if you're a makeup artist, or anything that has to deal with time sensitive issues, or nail tech or anything like that, then time is of the importance. Make sure that you are meeting people at the appropriate time. Stop being late. I'm gonna hit on that in a minute. Stop being late, but have everything that you need ready and available by the deadline. I.e., this goes back to one-on-one, what we talked about earlier. If you can't do it, then let them know, I can't have it by this day. Can we work on this day? And then come to a mutual agreement. All this stuff, I know it just sounds like good etiquette, but all this stuff is a part of your brand. It's a part of what is a brand? A brand is what people experience when they hear your name, whether it's your regular name or your business name. It is an experience. It is how they feel when they hear the name. It is how they feel when they see your picture or they see your logo. It's how they feel. It makes them, what do they feel? What do they experience? What do they think when they hear it? All this, people, is a part of your brand, personal and business brand. All of it is. So if you're on the buyer side, make sure that if someone is doing a service, you pay for a service and they're doing a service for you, whether it's paid for or free, and they're doing something for you, then meet them. If they say they need something at a certain time, make sure you get it to them, because it will, like I said, if you are any of the service providers, hairstylists, nail tech, different things like that. I can't think of who else you would be, but in that arena where your time is everything, even a real estate agent or broker, even all those type of people, then you need to know that time is of the essence. If you cannot make it, if you cannot make an appointment or give an item that they need to finish your project, just let them know that so you all can come to a mutual agreement. But try not to be angry if those are time sensitive specialties that these people are offering, and then they're upset because you was like, well, I was just 30 minutes late. I mean, dang, you can't do that. Time is of everything, because in that 30 minutes, that person that deals with time in their profession, that 30 minutes could have been another client. It could have been another call. It could have been another hairstyle to do, which is another client. So we have to make sure that we are doing that we are listening to the people, and that we are following instructions, that we're doing everything that we can to make sure that we are helping them, and then we're also building our brand. Now here's the thing about all the things that I've discussed today. What all these things do collectively and individually is build brand trust. Okay, that's what it builds. It builds brand trust. I'll say it again, brand trust. That's what all these things build, is brand trust. People will learn to trust you as a person, as an individual, because you held your side of you held your side of the bargain, or you held your side of the offer. And they will also learn to trust you in business, meaning that, okay, I trust this person because they did me right the last time, and this and the other, and then they're willing to pay their money to you. But people are not going to pay money to someone that they do not trust. And how do we break trust? By not calling, by all the things that we talk about, by not calling, by not getting them the stuff they need, by ghosting them, by getting sensitive every time they got to call you to the table on something. All these things build brand trust. Okay, all this stuff is brand trust. They're going to trust, and especially us service providers, they're going to trust us first before they start giving us money, before they trust our little business, or not little, but before they trust our business. Okay, before they trust paying us for something, they are watching us. They're hearing how we handled this client or this person. They are hearing how we did this person wrong or did them right. So we have to build brand trust before we can go any further as business people, before we can go any further in anything else. Okay, we have to build a trust. We have to get some things in alignment in our minds. okay, about how we perceive and how we treat other people, and how we look at ourselves and feel about ourselves, and in our heart, how we are we victimizing ourselves, where everything is an attack on us, but yet everybody's attacking us. No, these are things that we have to take into consideration when we are trying to build a brand. So with all these brand etiquettes that I've shared today, it's about trust. The people need to know, they need brand trust. When you think about Coca-Cola, Coca-Cola has been around for years, but you know why they've been around for years? It's not because they have great, which they do, they have great marketing campaigns where they can spend millions of dollars on marketing campaigns. It's not about that. They had to start like you and I. They had to start small too somewhere. But you know what they did? They built their brand trust with their community. They built their brand trust, and when I say community, I mean online community as well as the people that are around you physically. They had to build all these things over time to build trust. Okay, build trust. Now they have loyal people. I know people on both sides. I know some people that will not touch. They only drink Coca-Cola, and then I know some people that only drink Pepsi, and they will not. Now I can't tell the difference because I'm not a soda person like that, but they will not switch over because they have loyalty. They like that product. They like everything that product stands for, and they have built that brand trust. They've been with them for years, and you know what brand trust does for you? When you put all these brand etiquettes together and then you start building your brand trust, you know what that does? It raises profits. For you business owners, it builds profits because they know what you stand for. They know what you produce is really good. They know that you meet your timelines. They know that you answer their emails and calls. They know that you actually hear them if they have a grievance. All this is brand trust on the personal side and on the business side.